there are two categories of bad. Series that are bad because it's problematic, see Plunderer or Nekapara, and you have series that are bad because they are boring. We have yet to see the worst of this, as we really only have Sakura Wars or 22-7 in the boring category, but today we found a great floor to work with, as Shironeko Project, Chronicle, is boring as sin. Look, I know I said, hey, keeping things simple and using basic concept isn't good, and the whole can light and dark coexist is as basic can get, but you also need to make sure you can make the other parts interesting, as I was dying of boredom when watching this series. I had to mix in episodes of Smile Down the Runway just to give myself a reminder that there's still good anime out there. It doesn't help that this series is basically a prologue story for a mobile series that isn't even live in the States anymore, and don't worry, we'll get to that can of worms. So thinking this series was going to give me any good closure is a pipe dream, so I'm going to pick apart all the tumors this series has and explain why I believe they are in fact tumors. So let's start with the tumor/can of worms I said I would get to first. That this is based on a mobile game. So yes, admittedly, this is made for a Japanese market where the game is still live. And I, as a non-Japanese viewer, shouldn't fault the series for not having said product that is trying to peddle available overseas. Fair enough. However, I think I can follow you for doing a series on the prologue of the game. Most prologues aren't made to be standalone stories. You can't just chop off the opening of Lord of the Rings and call it a series. Maybe a fan of the Shironeko Project would appreciate the origin stories, but that's an extremely niche audience, and you're most likely going to get a person who knows nothing about your product, and looking for a story that concludes and tells a good story. Not an appetizer to a full course meal that isn't even done yet. Again, I assume it's not done, as the info about the game in English is minimal at best, with a substandard wiki and a Reddit, and I ain't got a shovel deep enough for that. Moving on, here's a nice little issue here. You didn't name your main character, but we gave him a name. Oh really, you were telling me Prince of Darkness is his given name. Look, I know he looks like a 2012 DeviantArt wet dream, but at least they gave their OCs a name. Again, it'd be something like Crimson or Pain, but at least they are names. Hell, I'd even take Cold Steel, because guess what? Besides the villain, King of Darkness, everyone else has a name, like normal people. Like if everyone in the Kingdom of Darkness just went by their titles, it would explain that. And it would be novel, and probably just be used to do the whole, I can't strike her, she gave me a real name. And yeah, it would be cliche, but it's something better than what we actually got, as he's the only one without a name. Let me introduce you to my new friends, Ball, Tio, and the Prince of Darkness. Such a dumb decision. It'd be like instead of Vegeta's name being Vegeta, it was the Prince of All Saiyans. Like, Vegeta would still be Vegeta, but you'd be like, why is his name Prince of All Saiyans when everyone else has a name? Okay, next tumor. You can do the whole Romeo and Juliet, it's so sad, can we get 50 likes? And I ain't gonna agree with you on that. There's a reason why it's a well-accepted archetype, and it has remained around for a reason. But again, I must stress, these are archetypes, not fully fleshed characters. So you do need to add something to make these characters, characters. Prince of Darkness and Iris, the Queen of Light, are basic as basic can get. And their only defining characters is the whole, our love is so forbidden, so tragic, can we get 50 likes? The side characters fare a bit better, as I could tell you the actual characteristics they have. But again, most aren't given enough screen time to really develop. For the villain, they're about as basic as can be. They're basically Sailor clones trying to turn everything into darkness, because we're really into darkness, bro, keep scrolling. But as I stated at the beginning of this episode, there's no workaround to just being boring, and the Shironeko Project, Zero Chronicles, is just that, boring. Its two leads can't carry the story, and I can't get excited for a series I have 0% of ever getting closure on. And frankly, unless you are the biggest Shironeko fan, there's really nothing in this for you. And you can absolutely skip this series, and the only thing keeping this from the bottom of the year is that it's not based on porn, and isn't rapey as sin. So that's two positives, but that doesn't make a series. But hey, this is the last of September, and next week we'll enter the spook month, and I'm super excited.